In this video, we will discuss the final stages of the writing process, editing and proofreading. Strong, clear, academic writing is a result of successfully navigating various stages of the writing process. This video discusses the final stage of the writing process, revising. Revising consists of two separate actions, editing and proofreading. These stages of the writing process share some commonalities, but there are some key differences as well. Once you have finished a complete draft of your paper, you can begin the process of polishing it. Think of this in terms of creating a marble statue. Your draft is akin to a freshly carved statue that has not yet been chiseled and buffed into a finished product. During editing is when you check that you included all of the appropriate pieces to your statue. Did you include the eyes, the ears, and all of the fingers? You begin to chisel away at the statue, adding or taking away content as needed. This could also be seen as focusing on the more macro elements of your paper, such as whether you met the content requirements for the assignment. Proofreading is where you fix the smaller, micro errors such as spelling and punctuation so that your paper is professionally presentable. To continue our statue analogy, it is at this point that you buff your statue until it is smooth, polished, and beautiful. Let's move on to the specifics of what this means in action. Editing involves focusing on content, clarity, structure, style, and citations. Regarding content, often the guidelines of your academic paper will weigh content more heavily than other areas of writing. This is because your professor wants to ensure that you have learned the concepts that you need to learn from the class. When editing for content, check to see whether you are meeting the requirements of the rubric. Ask yourself, did you cite the amount of research articles that you needed to? Is what you wrote about those articles true? The next step is assessing for clarity, which is strongly related to the previous step regarding content. Ask yourself, are you missing any key ideas or concepts in each section of your writing? Do some concepts need further explanation? On a sentence-by-sentence level, is it clear who or what each pronoun refers to? Are you using the best words you possibly can for what you are trying to communicate? Once you evaluate your paper's content and clarity, it is time to look over your paper's structure. Ask yourself, do you have the key pieces you need like an APA-compliant title and references page? Do you have all the headings and subheadings you need? Are your paragraphs transitioning into each other logically? If your overall structure is what it needs to be, move to assessing the structure within paragraphs. For example, ask yourself whether the way you present concepts in your literature review is easy to follow. Do you have clear topic sentences for each paragraph? Once you are satisfied with the structure of your writing, you will continue to fine-tune it by moving to assess your paper's style. In this step, make sure that you are maintaining a formal and academic tone throughout the assignment. Make sure that you are varying the length and structure of your sentences so that it is engaging to your reader, and make sure that you are writing an active voice. And finally, see if you can eliminate any unnecessary and repetitive phrases within your writing. And of course, we cannot write APA-compliant papers without every psychology student's favorite topic, citations. Make sure you double-check both your in-text citations and those on your references page. The APA 7 manual will be your best friend through this step. And a final note on editing. See if you can find patterns of error. People typically tend to repeat the same types of errors in each assignment, and knowing what those are for you can help you save time on editing in your future papers. Moving to the final stage of the writing process, proofreading, here are some tips to help make your writing even stronger. All these tips are designed to help make the reviewing process easier on your brain so that you can catch more errors in shorter periods of time. The first tip is to proofread for one kind of error at a time. This will keep you from feeling overwhelmed and will increase your effectiveness within the proofreading process. The second tip is to try circling every punctuation mark in the paper. This draws your attention to the punctuation and pushes you to check its accuracy within that sentence. The third tip is to try reading your paper out loud. If you're struggling to follow your paper orally, You are likely struggling with things like syntax, and you may have some run-on and incomplete sentences that need to be corrected. This is also a good way to listen to the rhythm of your sentences so that you can work on varying their rhythm. Varying the rhythm of your sentences can make your writing more engaging to the reader. If time allows, a great way to proofread your paper is to do a line-by-line edit. This involves combing through every sentence in your paper to catch the errors that you may have previously missed. One way of doing so is by separating your text into individual sentences by hitting the return or enter key after each sentence in your drafts. This will allow you to focus your attention on one sentence at a time. Finally, if you struggle with spelling, try reading your paper backwards. This trick works because as you read your paper backwards, the grammar and content of the paper will no longer make sense and your brain will be forced to pay even more attention to spelling. As stated previously, these writing stages do have some overlap, so here are some general tips to navigate the two stages of revising. Once you finish writing, you're likely to be overloaded cognitively. Take a break and separate yourself from the text. Do something unrelated, like going on a bike ride, and then return to the text at a later time with fresher eyes. This will allow you to catch errors you may have missed during your first attempt to complete the assignment. Gaining distance from the text can also involve simply giving your paper to someone else to edit. If you aren't comfortable having a friend or classmate look over your paper, remember you can schedule an appointment with one of the writing specialists here at the POW-C. Additionally, in line with giving yourself distance from the familiarity of what you have already written, you can try altering the size, spacing, or style of your document. This trick causes your brain to look at the document as new and may allow you to see errors that you might have otherwise missed. If you use this strategy, remember to revert back to the required format before turning assignments back into your professor. During this process, take some time also to reflect on what works best for you. Do you like editing on your computer, or are you more of a pen and paper person? If you like the latter, consider printing your paper out and using highlighters or colored pens and pencils to mark any errors that you find. This might make the experience more enjoyable for you and less like a job. Create a writing environment where you can actually focus. For some people, this may involve having complete silence. For others, it may involve playing certain kinds of music in the background. Again, find what works best for you. If time allows, break up your editing and proofreading sessions into shorter chunks of time. We all have attentional limits, and having the time to take breaks when you need them will positively contribute to your finished writing product. Last but not least, prioritize. Good writing and a great paper cannot be rushed. It is a time-consuming process. If you do not have a lot of time, make sure to prioritize by focusing on the bigger picture first, such as checking to see if your assignment meets the requirements of the rubric, as well as prioritizing the things that the rubric appears to value the most. If the content of your paper is worth 40% of your grade and grammar is worth 5%, focus on the content first. In conclusion, here are some key points to remember. Proofreading is a learning process. You're not just looking for errors that you recognize, you're also learning to recognize and correct new errors. You should not expect to have a perfect first draft. In fact, the best writers are the ones who do not place this unrealistic expectation upon themselves. This is where helpful tools such as writing manuals and dictionaries come in to help support you. Your job in the editing and proofreading stages is to look back and ask, is everything that I am attempting to communicate actually being communicated? Be diligent. This is more general academic advice, but also very relevant to the writing process. The people who grow the most are likely the ones who are the most diligent, rather than the ones who are the most naturally gifted. With writing specifically, if it sounds like it might be an error, double check it, even if your Word document hasn't given you a green, red, or blue line to bring your attention to that word or sentence. This diligence is what separates good writers from mediocre writers over time. Spell checkers and grammar checkers operate on a limited set of rules, and they are not likely to catch every error in your writing. Again, use dictionaries, thesauruses, your APA manuals, and Google searches to find credible writing websites such as POW-C to support you through this process. The first time you attempt this process, it will take significantly longer than the 50th time you do so. Be patient with yourself. Finally, There is no shame in asking for support from others. You could ask for support from trusted peers who are working on the same assignment as you, or it could be a writing specialist at the POW-C. They may know about a grammar rule or concept that you may not have heard of ever before, and therefore would not have been able to catch on your own. Support is important in any learning process. Happy writing!